believe that Sunday, Sirianni is on the stage? Now, what do I mean? Well, I've been listening since the Giants' loss, and it's been a very fragile 2 weeks, rightfully so. But there's been a lot of talk about Kevin Patullo. A lot of frustration with the quarterback. Brodes, the offensive line doesn't look the same. Ringo stinks. The list goes on and on and on. There hasn't been enough pressure on the CEO of this entire thing. He is the head coach. This team was going through controversy with Jalen, with AJ, with media, with this, with that. It's time to shut everything up and go win a damn football game. And it starts with the head coach getting everybody back on track. It's time to go on the road, beat a team that is respectful. Even with the Carson Wentz, it's no Las Vegas Raiders, okay? It's no dumpster fire organization. Hell, you just lost to the Giants. So, even if it was, it's time for Nick Sirianni to show his worth. Sirianni is on the stage. 215-592-9494. Here's my question to you. Do you believe there has been enough blame and enough pressure on Nick Sirianni since they started losing? Because it's been awfully quiet. And just because he doesn't call plays, it doesn't mean that he can just hide behind the fact that he oversees everything. Because the purpose of overseeing is when it all aligns, yes, you let everything run its course. But when it's not living up to the standard, you step in and fix it. You help Kevin Patullo. You help the offensive struggles. You figure out why the run game is so poor. It's on Nick Sirianni. Do you believe there's been enough pressure on the head coach? Because I don't think it's even popping up a tad. It's been so quiet on the Nick Sirianni front. He's supposed to be the mastermind of this whole entire operation. It starts and ends with his voice, with his messaging, with his ability to have everybody buy in, to have the relationship strong. He's been preaching that since the day he walked into the NovaCare complex. Well, there's been questions about the relationships. Show your worth, Nick. 215-592-9494. A.J. Brown spoke, and he talked about the current state of the feelings inside the locker room, let's say. This is what A.J. Brown had to say.
What's the vibe of the team as you guys try to right the ship?
You tell me. We listen. What you think? Sound normal, huh?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, normal, exactly. So, we're not letting a loss just humble us, and you can't let it humble. You got to keep going, and continue to find ways. This team is fine. This team is motivated and trying to get on the same page.
What do you see as the main issues with the offense?
Main issues? Self-inflicted wounds. Sometimes just lack of execution at the wrong time. If it's first down and you get lack of execution, it may not be the end of the world. But when it happens on third down, or puts us behind the sticks, that's hard to recover in this league. So I just think just being on the same page, and communication, and lack of execution.
All right, so two things there that I really want to attack. Number one is he mentioned everything sounds good, doesn't it? Okay, I like that answer. It could have been a lot worse. We have to actually see the field product, though. What's happening on the football field, because that'll tell me if it's lip service or if there's truth to it. So I do feel better hearing that tone and hearing that statement from A.J. Brown, knowing that sometimes A.J. Brown makes things messier. But I've also seen him play that game before. He could be putting on an act. And then the second he doesn't get a target in the first half, well, then things get super hideous on the sidelines. The second thing I want to point out from that clip is talking about having success on first downs, right? Talking about better execution and things of that nature. Doesn't Nick Sirianni preach details? Doesn't Nick Sirianni stress fundamentals? That's his MO. Well, if they are struggling to execute on said plays, if Jordan Mailata on his own show right here on WIP Monday nights is also bringing up the fact that the offensive line isn't doing their job and they're not creating holes the way they have in the past, and it starts with them in the trenches, well, then I have to start pointing the finger at the head coach to make sure the 50-plus men are all going after the same goal with the right mentality and executing at a higher clip. We got to really start emphasizing the stress on the head coach of the football team. He's the head coach. It's awfully quiet whenever this bad play is going on in regards to the one that is supposed to be the leader of all. And that doesn't mean, there's not flaws within Jalen missing Devontae Smith. I'll say that. I'm a Jalen's man. You know it. But you can't miss Devontae. You can't miss certain throws. Yes, he's missed throws. Yes, the offensive line has missed blocks. Yes, you're missing Quinyon Mitchell and Adoree Jackson and Ringo are set up to fail because they just stink. And all that is true. But I've watched this team under Nick Sirianni 2 straight years have adversity smack them in the face. In one of those years, it got so ugly that he almost got fired after making a Super Bowl the previous season. And if it wasn't for Howie Roseman sitting him down and saying, we're keeping you, but I'm handing you the coordinators, he may not be the head coach still. And then last year, he followed up the 2-2 start with a Super Bowl run. So we've seen both extremes. My point is, Sirianni is on the stage now. This week is crucial. This either puts you closer to 23 or puts you closer to 24. And it's time to go out and win a damn football game and look like a real football team and put it together for 4 quarters. None of this, the offense looks like hot garbage and can't complete a pass for an entirety of a second half nonsense. If you're Nick, you can't allow for that to happen. And let me give you a couple analogies here as we analogize, okay? Because I do have a couple of things to throw your way. So let's pretend here for a moment that Nick Sirianni is in the airplane, okay? Kevin Patullo is the pilot of the offense. But sitting next to him is Nick Sirianni. Nick helps him navigate through the turbulence. All right, the turbulence is rocking. The wind is all over the place. It's swaying the plane back and forth. Nick Sirianni has to help Kevin Patullo through the turbulence. He helps with the takeoff. He helps with the landing. That's what Nick Sirianni has to do this week in particular to set the tone, help out Kevin Patullo. The guy is very new at this. You've been in a Super Bowl and lost, and you've won a Super Bowl. We have to rely on your expertise. That's my first analogy. Here's my second. It's like being married, okay? Running the household. My wife says, hey, this is what we got to do on Saturday. 10 o'clock this with the kids. 12 o'clock this with the kids. Then we're going to my mom's. Then we're going to this party. Make sure we have the bags. Make sure we have the car seat. Make sure we have the diapers. Make sure we have the bottles. Blah, 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 blah. And what do? I make it happen. Nick Sirianni is the wife in the situation. Kevin Patullo is me in the situation. Nick says what to do, bop, 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 sets it all up. Here's the schedule. This is what Saturday's going to look like. I execute said plan. I make sure the car is packed. I make sure the kids have everything they need. And then, boom, I drive us to the destinations. Boom, I do this. That's what you need from the coach to help out Kevin Patullo. There's my analogies. Thank you so much for the music, bed. 215-592-9494. Sunday, Sirianni is on the stage. It's his time to shine. Has there been enough pressure on Nick throughout these last 2 weeks? And I'll even ask this question, too, as well. Do you think he will lead them through this tough time? Let's go to the phones, and let's go to Bob in Center City. What's up, Bob?
Hi. I have a comment similar to what you said. I think this is obvious. 22, Steichen. He's now making Daniel Jones look good. 23, won 10 games, and they sucked. Sirianni promotion. 24, Kellen Moore, now coach of the Saints. This year, well, let's see what happens. Hopefully they don't spiral, but Sirianni promotion. Hurts needs a good OC. Sirianni ain't it. And that's my comment.
Okay, but listen, I don't disagree with you big picture, but coming up this week, if this team is going to be successful, we need Nick Sirianni to answer the bell. So you're saying you don't think it's in him to have the response that we need to get this to where they're a serious contender. You don't think Nick Sirianni can do it?
I think he's a team manager. He is not a game strategist.
I agree with you. Okay, so you believe that this Sunday is a loss, or do you think that they can still survive a Carson Wentz-led Minnesota team?
Will they survive? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I think there's going to be all, comma to pay. But if you read, I'm sure you do. I mean, you look at Philly.com, all this, not the bloggers, the serious writers, McLean and all them, they're all predicting a loss.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your phone call, Bob. I'll tell you, all week long, I was thinking, yikes. And the fact that I was heading into Minnesota scared when all year long I've been pumping my chest saying all this franchise does is win. I trust in Jalen. At the time, before last week, I had a lot of confidence in Vic Fangio and the way the defense has helped this team throughout the year. Last week was super rough. Looks like Quinyon will be back, and that's a huge step in the right direction. But this is the first week as we enter a Football Friday where I truly put both my arms up and I say, I don't know. And that's why I'm really trying to apply the pressure to one Nick Sirianni, because you can't let this ship sink, okay? You can't let this go underwater. This is the swinging momentum game. You either lose 3 straight or you get off the schneid and you feel good about yourself when there was a bunch of noise in the locker room all week. Again, hearing A.J. Brown made me feel a little more comfortable compared to the alternative, or if he didn't even address the media in general that way. I still feel this is a huge unknown. I don't know what version of the team I'm going to get. And if I do get the great version of this team, is it only for a quarter? Is it only for 2 quarters? Is it the entire game? It needs to be significantly more than a half of football. And that's why if Nick Sirianni's going to be the guy this deep into his career, he better be able to find a damn answer here. That's his job. And I like Sirianni. I don't have no agenda. I'm not an anti-Sirianni guy. He wins a Super Bowl. He brings us to 2 Super Bowls. I like Nick Sirianni. I think there's limitations compared to maybe the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVays of the world from a strategy standpoint. But you got to have something in your bag if you're going to be a non-play caller, because if you win a lot, your coordinators are going to get poached all the time. And if your coordinators are going to get poached, you're going to have to deal with adversity in that position year after year. You better bring something to the table to help out in that situation as an offensive guy, right? Offensive side of the ball kind of guy. So I need him to have his hands in the cookie jar to help this squad on Sunday. Has there been enough pressure on Nick over the last 2 weeks? I say no. And I'm here to say it's time. Because that's what a CEO is. When things get tricky and when things get sour, you then put yourself in the middle of what's going wrong and you fix it. If you're in a company and you're the CEO and all the people underneath of you in the cubicles are struggling heavily, and they're not doing their work, and they're not getting their sheets in on time, and their Excel spreadsheets are all over the place, and no one's executing said plan. What, do you just sit there in your office with your feet up, drinking a cup of coffee and smoking some green? You know what I mean? Sneaking a couple sips of hard liquor at lunch? Or do you do something about it and make sure the company doesn't burn? It's a big week for Nick Sirianni. 215-592-9494. We are going to get right back to the phones, but I want you to listen to Jaws. So Jaws was on with the afternoon show today. This is what he says about sort of what this offense is currently.
No, I don't. I don't. I think this team is still incredibly talented. You know, the word everyone uses is execution, and they're not executing properly. It's that simple. Now, you could say it's one guy here, one guy there, and we all know in football, to be successful, 11 players, 11 guys on each side of the football for a given play must work hand in hand to be successful. If one player fails at his job, the play is blown up. It doesn't work. It's not that simple, but it is. You know, that players have to work together, and right now they're not working in harmony. I just don't see it. The offensive line, you know, and I preach this probably for the last decade. It's been the best offensive line, the best coached offensive line in football, a dominant offensive line. They just haven't been. And I know Lane's got the stinger on the shoulder, and Mekhi Becton's not there, which to me has been somewhat overlooked. He was a dominant physical human being, Mekhi Becton was last year when he was here. So I see that as a big hole, because he may not have got all his blocks, but Saquon could run around him and get open and get through a crack. That's how good he was. So I think there's a loss of Mekhi Becton hurt. And obviously Landon's been hurt, and you've had injuries and Cam's been hurt. You've had some injuries on the offensive line. But they haven't played as well as I've seen them play in the past. Those offensive linemen must work as one. And quite honestly, Saquon hasn't been getting to the outside like he did last year. That jump cut that he was so good at, you know, I just haven't seen it being effective this year. So there's a long way to go in the season. Adjustments will be made, but it's not the same team that we saw playing the second half of last season and in the playoffs.
Okay, so it doesn't seem, in Jaws' eyes, it's about Kevin Patullo being too predictable and there being a lot of tells. It's strictly on getting this right with Saquon executing, the offensive line blocking, being in harmony, as he said. If that's the case, it should be an easier fix for Sirianni. Now, Jaws knows way more about football than I'll ever know. But personally, I think there's more to be said about maybe Kevin Patullo running the ball on certain down and distances and how he sets up his formations. That makes it a bit more complicated to get it fixed. But again, you're the CEO of the football team. That's Nick Sirianni's job to do it, especially as someone who's a seasoned vet now. Nick Sirianni's been around a long time in this league. If maybe you struggle to be this guru strategically, well, you'd think over time, spending a lot of time in the meeting rooms with Kellen Moore and Shane Steichen, that you could pick it up and adapt and learn a little bit about it as you go through your day-to-day stuff. But, okay, let's run with what Jaws was saying there. It's more of a lack of execution thing. At that point, then, come on, Nick. Come on. Let's go to Bobby in Philly. What's going on, Bobby?
Hey,
What's up, Bobby?
I'm going to talk about the Eagles as well.
Okay, what are you thinking?
I think a lot of their problems too. I wonder if it's something to do with new additions with the coordinators, and some of the starts they have trouble executing. Something might come down to that too, with the newness of everything. But they do have a lot of talent as well on both sides of the ball. As well.
No, Bobby, they definitely do, and I appreciate your phone call. They definitely do have a lot of talent, and I think that's why it's frustrating, because I'm watching lesser talent on Sundays and even on Thursdays with 48-year-old quarterbacks just slinging it around like it's nothing. So there's all these other teams that can do more. There's so much that there's so much meat left on the bone with this group and this personnel. And yeah, if Kevin Patullo is very raw and they made a mistake or whatever, then why can't I rely on Nick Sirianni to get us through that rough patch, to take over when needed, anything along those lines. And I don't know, maybe Kevin Patullo gets all the kinks ironed out because Kellen Moore was once questioned throughout the first few weeks, and then they kind of hit their stride, and they got to an understanding of what their identity was going to be about, which it clearly was a run-heavy offense with Saquon Barkley, and they got to find that again. And maybe they do. Maybe they find the 2025 version of that, and Kevin Patullo doesn't look to be as much of a question mark or a disaster. But until we get there, I need the main guy in charge to show his worth. To show his worth. I need to see Nick Sirianni be the dominant force in the NovaCare complex to set the tone and be the one that pushes this team over the edge. And, you know, Nick played this card all offseason long and even into training camp. We're not champions anymore. Maybe that was wrong. And maybe you could switch that on the fly. I want them to go out there every single Sunday, run out the tunnel, knowing they are great. They are world champions. They are the best team in football. And I know last year's not this year, but I want that attitude. Because I almost wonder, considering all these teams, you have the target on your back. So they enter each week thinking this was the last team to hoist a Lombardi, and you roll into each week thinking, we're not champions. No, I want you to think you're champions. Maybe there's a mentality switch that starts first, and then we can get into the layers and peel it back of what do we do schematically, what do we do on first down, so it's not second and long, so we're not setting ourselves up in, uncomfortable positions offensively. We can get into third and shorts. We can get into positions where it's 4th and 1. We can run the tush push. We can keep the chains moving. We can get into that, but maybe it starts with mentality. As I'm talking out loud, I'm trying to figure out the answers with you. 215-592-9494. Sunday, Sirianni is on the stage. Let's go to Aaron in PA. What's up, Aaron?
Brodes, what's going on, man?
Not much. How are you?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing good.
Good. Hey, this whole Sirianni thing is interesting. Doesn't it remind you sort of that he's like a high school coach that wakes up from a dream and realizes he's a head coach of an NFL team?
I understand where you're coming from, and I definitely do laugh at it with truth. But then when you say that, I go, yeah, but he has been to 2 Super Bowls. So to answer your question, yes, but he also has so much success in this league that it's hard to ignore it,
He does, and here's the thing that gets me, though. He seems like a pretty good motivator, but it seems like everything has to be well-positioned and perfect. The roster, the guys making decisions ahead of him, helping him out, it seems like everything has to be just right. And I heard, too, like they say, oh, he's a great CEO coach. Well, the other 2 great CEO head coaches are who? John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin. Never hear anything out of Pittsburgh.
Dan Campbell.
Never hear anything out of Baltimore. And there's issues there, but I feel like there's a respect there for those 2 head coaches who can control the team.
Yeah, and look, I think that the players like Nick Sirianni a lot. I think they respect Nick Sirianni a lot. And look, I think this game in particular will tell me more. Because if they go out there and they have a dud and they lay an egg and now they're losing 3 straight and things really spiral really, really badly, then maybe I could chew on what you're saying more. But if they win on Sunday, that's why this game is so big for momentum and for morale. If they win on Sunday, they can stop the bleeding and get back on track. So I could dig more into that comment literally based off of what happens in Minnesota, and that's how big of a game this really is for me.
And I agree. I agree with that 100%. He has a chance here to turn this around. He has a chance to take control of the team, and he has a chance to, like you said, assist Patullo in finding out what's going on, what's wrong with the play. Is it the play calling? Is it the quarterback? I had one comment on Jalen Hurts. Okay.
Yeah.
The game last night, watching 40-year-old Joe Flacco and 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers fling that ball all over the field. It's as much as I like Jalen Hurts and the things he can do running the ball, and I feel like command of the offense at times. you're never going to get that kind of play from him consistently.
No, you're not. And the question is, and I appreciate the call, Aaron, do you need it? Because, look, Joe Flacco does that at 40-something years old. He's not winning anything. And Joe Burrow, the Cincinnati Bengals are winning games with Joe Flacco, and Joe Burrow's an elite talent, you know? So it's like, well, what would this offense look like if you put this quarterback? Well, the Bengals, what does that mean? Joe Burrow stinks because you could put in a Joe Flacco and win? Or Joe Burrow's not as good, or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what it means. It just means you can win with multiple quarterbacks in certain offenses. And yes, if you plugged a different quarterback in over Jalen Hurts, would it look different? Could you sling it differently? Without a doubt. But here's what I do know. Jalen's way of doing it is one of one. There's really no quarterback that relates to his style, but his style is effective enough when executed properly to win a Super Bowl. And that's what you want heading into a year. Do you have a quarterback where if you can get it all aligned, the maximum ceiling of said quarterback is a championship, is a Super Bowl? The answer is yes. Does it look different than everybody else? Absolutely. Does it have to be a certain style to it? Without a doubt. Is it unique? 100%. But is it effective enough to win a Super Bowl? Without question. And that's how I see it, personally. Guess what? There's a lot of guys that have better arms that haven't won championships. It doesn't mean they can't win championships, but this works. It's just a different style. And certain guys can drop back and toss it around and target Jamar Chase 50 billion times, and the list goes on and on. But it works. Andy in Denver. What's up, Andy?
Bro,
what up?
Live. We hot. What's up, my guy?
Not much. What's happening?
Yo, I think the blame game really has to go around to a lot of different pieces, right?
Okay.
I feel you with Sirianni, right? But the real perpetrator that's getting the easy pass, right? You gotta look at the man that put this whole thing together, the GM, Howie Roseman, right? All the moves, he's been hot these last couple years, right? But you look at every free agent he brought in this year, ain't not one of them hit. Ojulari, bum. A.J. Dillon, bum. Uche, is he even – I don't even know his number. Is he even on the team? I mean –
He's number 0.
Oh, yeah, he is number 0. I did realize that last week.
we got a guy that looked productive and this retired, like, out of the blue. That's kind of weird. You know, I mean, you got 2 in-season trades that you made, and we ain't hit on not one of them. Tank Bigsby looks like he don't even deserve to be on the roster. And, I mean, Ja'Carrion Bennett, you know, he got hurt, but, I mean, I don't know what we were going to get from that. So, I mean, he's got to take some of this blame. You know, you can't always draft studs like Coop and Quinyon Mitchell. I mean, then next year, Campbell, he looks good, but he's still raw. But Makuba, that guy's a liability.
Yeah,
out
he's
there.
got two. I knew we'd have like ups and downs with him, but his downs are hitting a lot harder than I thought his downs would hit.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's a liability. Does he make plays? Yeah, he makes plays, but he seems to be getting played more than he's making plays.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. No, I'm with you though, Andy. I think you're right. I think you are right.
But Nick's got to take a lot of blame with this too, because you know he preaches connectivity and communication and family, and you got 2 of your star players that for 2 seasons in a row don't seem to be vibing. Like you don't got to be best friends, but you got to have that on-field connection. So he's got to take a lot of blame for that, and they don't look prepared game day, and they're getting out physical. So that's got to go on the coach. But the biggest blame, right, Brodes, if I was to ask you, did anybody play up to their potential this year? Offense, defense, special teams, anybody? Like, I don't know if you could say yes. I think everyone underperformed. All your stars and then all your guys that you think you could have plug and played, you know, I think they all underperformed too. We found out Ringo ain't nothing but a special teams player, you know. So I think that's where a lot of the issues lie. but I think they'll be able to turn it back around.
Okay. And I hope you're right, Andy, and I appreciate the call. Yeah, I mean, you had moments, right? The block and special teams and things. So there were moments for sure. But overall, big picture, I think you're right. Every single man, I'd say, has not lived up to their capabilities at a consistent enough rate. And that's really destroying you. You know, I mean, Baldy, and we could play the audio in a little bit here, but Baldy on the afternoon show a few days ago, I mean, he shredded Jalen Carter and said he's basically giving you nothing. He's not playing with any violence, nothing. And you're supposed to have a staple there. Actually, we have the audio right here. Take a listen to what Baldy had to say to Ike, Spike, and Fritz.
Now, we're hearing that Jalen Carter was out at practice. They don't know how much he practiced or not, but he didn't play in the last game because of a heel injury. Hasn't really had a signature moment yet this year, Baldy. What are you seeing with Jalen that he hasn't necessarily been as impactful as we've seen in the past with him, as we've become accustomed to?
Well, don't sugarcoat it here. Like, don't sugarcoat it. I mean, he's been awful. I mean, I haven't seen anything.
Straight from the hip. Shoot it. Shoot it from the hip, then. Shoot it.
I mean, I'm just telling you, like he hasn't made one play. He hasn't shown any violence out there. He doesn't look like he's in great shape. He's a guy that had played last year. In a couple of games, he played every snap.
Every snap. Yep.
Yeah. Every snap. Like, you don't see defensive tackle. I mean, you see Max Crosby doing the edge. You don't see tackles do that.
Yeah.
And he played every snap in some games last year. Whether he had to or not, he did.
Yep.
You don't see the conditioning. You don't see the violence. You don't see him splitting double teams. Like, he hadn't done anything, in my mind, to, I mean, he was an ascending player. We thought he would be a dominant player. He doesn't look anything like that right now. So, I don't know what's going on there, but he's not been the same player. Now, I know the shoulder's been bothering him, the heel. He looks like he's a little chunky, So the defensive coordinators kind of called him out on that a little bit. So there's a lot of time to get going here, but he needs to get going soon because they need him to be really good, to be anywhere near a good defense.
No doubt. He is the staple. He is the one to kind of allow everything else to happen, right? The reason why you think an Uche or a Jalix Hunt or any of these guys could have success is because everybody's focused on number 98, and he's creating so much chaos in the trenches with his hand in the dirt that lanes appear, and then you can flourish because we can't let Jalen Carter beat us. That was really intense from Baldy there, and he wasn't sugarcoating it. So my one thought is how much of this is strictly on the player and how much of this is there is a price to pay when winning a championship and playing all those snaps. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to be objective in what we're seeing, right? Landon Dickerson does not look the same. Mailata does not look the same. Hell, Lane Johnson at times does not look the same. Now, I think there's a natural drop-off between Mekhi Becton and Tyler Steen, but Cam Jurgens had an injury that was being dealt with at the end of last season and all as well with his back, I believe, off the top of my head. So is that the price you pay to win a championship? And now this is just a cause and an effect. And same applies to Jalen Carter. I don't know the answer. I really don't. I don't know the answer. But I do wonder when everyone says it's so hard to go back-to-back and this and that. Well, teams had 3 months of an offseason longer than you because you're battling for the playoffs. That 3 months is extreme, but you get my point. You're putting your body through hell. And think about how rough 17 regular season games are. 3 postseason games is almost a second season. I can make the argument that those 3 playoff games, if you have a bye in the wild cards, you got divisional, NFC, and Super Bowl, is almost equivalent to playing a second season in the same year. And that's what you got to deal with on the physical side. And is that why maybe we're looking tired and not able to execute the same way and all of that? Again, I don't know, but that's a thought that hits me when I hear Baldy go to that level with Jalen Carter. And then here's something else that I want to throw your way. We always keep referencing the adversity that they handled positively in the past. Rightfully so. We're track record people. Well, why do you feel good about this player? Well, look at his track record. Why do you feel good about this guy? Well, look at what he's done in this league, etc. But I listened to A.J. Brown, or I saw his Instagram post after they won the Super Bowl. And initially, I took that as a good sign that he just wants to dominate corners all day long, and that's what fuels him. But do they have the same hunger as a locker room to handle the adversity, because once you have the success, I don't know, man, there was a lot to be said about Saquon coming over here and the rushing yards and the title, and there was a different killer attitude last season. And when AJ wins a championship and feels, well, that didn't really fulfill me, that didn't really move the needle for me, that didn't really do much for me, well, then would you have the same obligation to face that adversity the same way if you know the end goal isn't going to do much for you emotionally? Is it worth putting your time and effort in if winning a championship isn't really moving you? I don't know. Again, I'm just trying to look at it objectively, because you know what? I love what I do. I love sports talk radio. I'm obsessed with sports talk radio. It's a craft that I think about every second of every day. I love it. So when I do this and I want to get better and I want to improve and I listen to the audio and I go back to the tape and I write down things I like, I don't like, bang, 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 the whole thing, right? It's because I know at the end of the day, wherever this ride takes me, I am going to feel fulfilled, hopefully, if I reach the goal that I one day want to reach, right? But if this was all for something that I knew wouldn't really excite me, would I have the same burn to get better? Would I have the same passion to try to listen to my previous shows and to learn from what I did wrong and to work on my teases and to work on my interviews and to work on my opening segments and this and that? If I knew that the end goal wouldn't be that exciting, would I care? I don't know. But I wonder if that applies to this locker room at all. And I'm just speaking out loud with you. I don't know the answer to these questions.